So I promise dinner will be served after this last presentation, but for now it is my pleasure to provide an introduction for the Thomas L. Schlosser Distinguished Service Award. The Schlosser Award is given on an annual basis to recognize an individual for his or her long-term significant service to the ASLRRA. To help us add some context to the force and the inspiration behind this award, we're very fortunate tonight to have with us Christy Schlosser, Tom's wife of 34 years. Christy, please join me on stage.
Okay, hi. I'm glad to be here, but seriously, bread, wine, salad. Do I have anything in my teeth? I'm sorry if anything comes out of me. I know I have to burp, but hopefully I can hold it till the end. The first thing I wanted to do was thank you so much for having me participate in this year's convention. And I really do want to congratulate all the safety award winners. I remember Tom always said safety first every day to me and the girls. So I've been asked to speak a few words about what it was that distinguished Tom and the qualities he had. He was a man of loyalty, kindness, leadership. He was a mentor. He loved his family. He was dedicated, honest. He was a committed volunteer. And of course, he loved railroading. These are qualities of everyone here tonight. I know this. The only thing that set Tom apart was that he was afforded and accepted the opportunity to do it publicly, to do it in the spotlight, where it could be recognized for what it was, service to the association above and beyond as vice chair and then chairman. These positions allowed him to show what there is in each of us. He led with foresight and integrity. And when he asked each member how they were, he truly listened to what you had to say. Tom also had the unfortunate opportunity to show people what it is like to fight cancer, the side effects of the treatment that comes with it, and to finally lose the battle with dignity. Tom was relentlessly dedicated to the railroad business and its future possibilities. Days before he passed away, he was in the hospital, still trying to make the Fort Worth and Western Railroad bigger and better, like all things are in Texas. It was then that Dave Parkinson flew in and told him as gently as possible that that work part of his life was over. And I will never forget the look on his face when he finally got it. I asked each of our daughters, Katie and Rachel, if there was anything they wanted me to tell you about their dad. Rachel wrote that he was a man who didn't need words to reassure people of who he was, and she wanted to let you know that she loves you for loving and remembering him. Katie wanted you to know that her father taught her the art of a good handshake. Give the hand a firm shake and look the person straight in the eye. And I can tell you that's what I'm going to do when I learn, as you all will tonight, who the recipient of the award is this year, and I get a chance to congratulate that person. In closing, I want to thank you for allowing me to share these words. The association meant so much to Tom. And I want you to know that the association, its members and staff, and the volunteers and the stories that we share together will always feel like home to me. Thank you so much for honoring me.
Christy, thank you again so much for joining us this evening. You make it very, very special. Tonight's winner is a thought leader and a true force in our industry. It is frankly hard to imagine the association or even the short line industry without him. Tonight we honor George Betke, Chairman of Farmrail, Inc. George is founder and CEO of 35-year-old Farmrail System, Inc., Western Oklahoma's regional railroad. Under George's stewardship, Farmrail has evolved from a 35-mile joint venture into a 347-mile network covering 12 counties. His stewardship and his guidance has extended to decades of work and support for our association. Throughout his career, George has led with grace, with humility, and with a passion for motivating those around him to achieve their very best. He is admired by many, and he is matched by none. But let me allow those who know him best to tell his story.
So that would have been in the summer of 1987 when we were about to start the Grain Belt Railroad. And I had just met George 2 days before. And of course he was the CEO of the company. So out of respect, I was referring to him or calling him Mr. Betke. And he said to me, "No, I'm just George." Well, he's never been just George. He's always been a lot more than that. Primarily, George is just an outstanding teacher. He cares about people. He's concerned about what we know. He's concerned about our education. Are we growing? Are we doing the right things to affect the industry, to affect Farmrail? Most of all, George is a man who cares deeply about people.
What he was really effective at was being an advocate and having a large perspective of what's good for the shoreline industry, and it's a very natural thing for him to do. One thing you like about George is he knows what's right and he gets to that point. He understands that working together as an industry, working together as an association, is trying to get the masses to a single point. And I think that's really the highlight about this award is George is bigger than himself, and he likes to make sure that the entire association can benefit from good things. Certainly, when I served as chairman of the LPC and as chairman of the association, I would get a missive from George giving me some perspective on some stuff. We didn't always agree or get to the same point, but what I knew is George always had my best interest and the interest of the association at hand, and for that, George, thank you very much.
George is a we guy. He talks in terms of we did this and we need to think about that and we accomplished this as a team. And I think that that's something that well, it's been valuable to this association. It certainly has been valuable to his company, where he's been able to, with this kind of concept, build a good team. It's been valuable to us as a company that's benefited from his company's investment. And obviously I think it's a big benefit to this association that they have a leader among everyone here who is so committed to the goals of the association, but they have a leader like George who can express it so well. I think George has got a solid family. Their success obviously is, I think, another measurement of George's success. Your kids turn out fine. It says that you're doing something on the family side, the personal side of the equation, as well as the business side.
Tonight we have a special guest on hand to introduce George. I'd now like to welcome to the stage Mr. Mort Fuller, Chairman of the Board, Genesee and Wyoming, Inc. Please welcome Mort to the stage.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here. Let me get the papers sorted. But I'm not just pleased to be here, I'm honored to be here, extraordinarily so. And it's my pleasure to really talk about George tonight from the personal point of view. You witnessed all that he has done for the industry, as have I throughout my career. But I wanted to tell you about our personal interactions. When I acquired control of Genesee and Wyoming Railroad Company in 1977 and formed Genesee and Wyoming, Inc. as a holding company, I knew little about the freight railroad business. My experience had been in large-scale real estate finance and development. In those early years, a friend advised me to contact George Betke, a principal in the investment firm of Harlan, Betke, and Myers, who knew the rail industry and had an interest in a short line. We connected, and George became a friend and informal advisor whom I could call when I needed help. He was an invaluable resource. In the early years after Staggers, he contacted me to work on an acquisition opportunity with him, the sale of the Central Vermont Railroad being considered by Canadian National. It was a big transaction for both of us, but there was little competitive interest. Then CN decided not to sell, a decision that was probably for the best because it would have been a lot for us to take on at the time. But going through the process and the analysis with George provided an invaluable experience. We walked away with an informal understanding that if George needed a partner on a future opportunity, we'd work together. Then in 1992, George brought us an opportunity to acquire the International Papers rail line from Erie to Emporium that was contiguous to our Buffalo and Pittsburgh Railroad. It was small and a perfect fit with our New York, Pennsylvania rail system. And we agreed that Genesee and Wyoming should acquire it on its own. Not long after, George returned with a proposal for us to jointly acquire Conrail lines in New Jersey that served sand deposits. We thought we developed a bid satisfactory to Conrail. And it was supported by the principal customer with whom we worked to accommodate their concerns. Then Conrail called to tell us that they decided to sell it to the customer. After that experience, it seemed that despite the values we shared on joint transactions, working together was unlucky for us both. Fortunately, George has a short memory. In 1995, he approached us again to invest with him in an opportunity to jointly acquire another Conrail line that was near us in upstate New York. And it was to be named the Finger Lakes Railroad. George had Mike Smith's commitment to oversee the operation, but needed our knowledge of working in New York State to drive the restructuring necessary for the line's success. We jumped to take that equity interest equal to George's, put a director on the board, who was Mark Hastings, And the rest is history, as they say. Finger Lakes has had a very successful run. George contributed in many ways, such as these, to Genesee and Wyoming's and my development in the rail industry. Several years ago at an American Short Line and Regional Railroad Convention, annual convention, he took me aside to tell me that Farmrail, which as you saw was owned by the employees, had already fully funded its pension plan. George had put, despite his investment background, a diversified portfolio with a heavier dosing of GWI stock in the plan. The increase in the value of GWI had fully funded the pension plan long ahead of schedule. That made me feel wonderful. George's confidence in Genesee and Wyoming meant a lot to me. We never encourage those close to us to invest, and when they have and done well, it's very satisfying. George has shared his passion and knowledge with us in the industry, and he shared Farmrail's success with its employees. There's a collegiality, an openness to our sector of the rail industry that makes it special. The American Short Line and Regional Railroad Association is a driver of that spirit, and George Betke's leadership and support are constant contributions to keeping the association on track. Tonight, it's my opportunity and honor to thank George for all that he's done for me, and for Genesee and Wyoming, and for the American Short Line and Regional Railroad Association. George, would you come up and join me?
Wow, what can anybody say? I guess I can say that I'm truly honored to be in the distinguished company of the 3 previous winners of the Schlosser Award, and to have a memento that recognizes the leadership of a man whom I always held in very high regard. As you've heard, Tom Schlosser was a thoughtful and persuasive leader who, as you may remember, literally and figuratively stood head and shoulders above most of the crowd. I think the special thing that makes this award so surprising and humbling is that no one consciously competes for it. No one knows just what the selection criteria are, or who the president has designated to make that judgment among an unknown field of candidates. It's simply bestowed out of thin air in a totally unexpected telephone call from the chairman, Mr. McKechnie. As I look out at this audience, I see many other longstanding colleagues and friends who have worked to make the short line community what it is and must be similarly worthy of this recognition. Their time hopefully will come as the pioneering 1980s entrepreneurs continue to turn the reins over to their successors. I just hope that the award isn't given on the basis of longevity. Well, contrary to the political talk that we've been hearing during the presidential campaigns, credit never belongs to one person. There is always a supporting cast of capable and committed people who represent the foundation of knowledge and experience on which leadership must depend. Inspiration and guidance are one thing, performance is another, and I'm proud and grateful to have the Farmrail team consistently making me look good. The other party behind the scene is my very understanding, supportive, and often forgiving spouse, Mary Ann, the unseen partner who helps me be the person that I am. Our two children, Heath and Eric, and their mates, are here tonight accompanied by one of our 5 granddaughters, and I'm very thankful for their presence at this occasion. I want to say a few words about the importance of ASLRRA. The Schlosser Award for every one of its recipients to date symbolizes a personal and corporate belief in and commitment to the power of association. When I first became involved with Regional Railroads of America nearly 40 years ago, the original American Shortline Railroad Association motto was, quote, "doing collectively what is impossible for the individual." That became the driving theme behind the eventual unification of those organizations into the American Shortline and Regional Railroad Association that we know today. As many of us saw at the annual Railroad Day in Washington last month, there is some contributing role for all railroad members and associates to play, whether large or small. In an industry dominated by corporate giants, we have to appear larger than life, individually in our local markets and together in association at the state and national levels. Politically, our entire industry needs to be appreciated as a national treasure, not under attack as a highly visible target. I liken the shortline community to a collection of several hundred mice scurrying around under 7 North American elephants with very large feet. Well, the mice seem to have proliferated as consolidation diminished the elephant herd. And the mice now represent 38% of network functionality and handle roughly a quarter of all freight traffic. That transformation would not have been possible without the coordinated industry, political, regulatory, safety, and informational efforts conducted through ASLRRA. In addition to the association leadership and staff, many of our colleagues, and not just executives, devote significant time to the cause, ranging from direct lobbying to committee participation to arranging for programs and manning event registration desks. I've never been convinced that either Ed McKechnie or Jerry Vest have regular jobs with their listed employers. And there's a much longer list of players who consistently help out at association gatherings, like Janet Gilbert, Stephen Friedland, Gary Griswold, I could go on. They need successors too, and there's plenty of opportunity for others to step up. Nearly 100 volunteers contribute each year to planning and staging this convention, and they deserve recognition for their teamwork. Can we give them a quick round of applause? I'll turn a quick page. For those who can't or choose not to devote time, opening the personal checkbook once in a while is a good and valuable way to participate. Tonight is one of those times. That's the way the system works in electing business-savvy candidates to office who can help our cause. It isn't about big money. We can be like the Bernie Sanders supporters. Small contributions from many donors can get the job done in an effective and very democratic way. In an unusual presidential election year, the analogy of shortline railroad populists, as contrasted with deeply entrenched party establishments, comes readily to mind. ASLRRA is our community organizer, to use the term. amplifying additional or individual corporate voices, and drawing support from more than 10,000 freight shippers and receivers around the country. Those customers appreciate the short-line revolutionaries business model based on highly personal relationships with customers dependent on low-volume, switching-intensive carload traffic. In a retail business like that, customer service trumps operating metrics. We're not normally in a position to dictate how customer facilities and behavior should fit our needs, and instead must find ways to accommodate their needs. Most short-line owners don't expect to generate consistent internal growth and extraordinary returns in an inherently cyclical business. Few, if any, of us can hope to achieve the enviable 65% operating ratio now being targeted by the nation's Class I railroads. After assisting those carriers in downsizing and streamlining their systems over the last quarter century, the short line mice and the manifest freight they deal in now represent the perimeter line of defense for the elephant's commercial franchises, all of which have large components of carload traffic. In slightly different terms, the pachyderms and the rodents in the railroad arena need each other more than ever. Fewer rail shippers moving fewer carloads of fewer commodities to and from fewer places is not a recipe for long-range industry prosperity in competition with truckers who can turn left or right at any intersection. We need each other, and we need ASLRRA. Thanks again for your astonishing expression of confidence in me. Official retirement from Farmrail, which, by the way, is headquartered in Clinton, Oklahoma, will not diminish my interest in our association and its critical role in helping us to cruise around the ever-present mousetraps. I have to end those political allusions with an apology because there's absolutely no way I can work the word Kasich into any sensible commentary on any subject. Thank you all again for this great tribute to a railroad senior citizen.